Part 177. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1766. Humph, Zuyun, I already know most of your abilities. Otherwise, how could I fight with you? Xianxia's voice came from the ice cave. Then, a burst of fire burst into the immortal formation. Click. In an instant, an immortal crystal exploded, and the immortal power surged in all directions. Zuyun quickly took a few steps back. Xianxia not only hides his clumsiness, but also hides it very deeply. He is indeed Xianxian. But it has definitely arrived and can break through the realm of the immortal lord at any time. It's just that there are 5 elements loose immortals here all the time, so he doesn't dare to break through. Maybe after the breakthrough, it will be his death. I was still careless. Xianxia is such a cautious person, wouldn't he hold back? Zuyun took a few steps back, taking advantage of the opponent's immortal power not to rush through the immortal formation, and quickly took out a few more immortal crystals. The 9-turn-9 yang immortal formation has broken a piece of the immortal crystal and is no longer a formation. But Zuyun was able to quickly combine the remaining 8 pieces of immortal crystals that were disconnected to form a star-shifting immortal formation. After a few fairy crystals landed on the ground, the formation changed instantly. This is the magic effect of the stars. The stars are everywhere, and there seems to be no rules. But what Tang Liwen told him was ever-changing. Therefore, the star-shifting formation can be set up at will. As long as there is a connection between the stars, the formation will naturally form. Sure enough, after adding a few fairy crystals, no matter how strong Xianxia's fairy power was, it could only destroy 1 fairy crystal at most and would not damage the structure of the formation. As long as Zuyun is willing and has enough immortal crystals, he can completely trap Xianxia here. Xianxia can destroy 1 fairy crystal every time, but Zuyun can easily lay down dozens of them. Zuyun, what a formation you are doing. After learning about his current predicament, Xianxia couldn't help but stop. He could feel that the space he was in was getting bigger and bigger, and there were more and more stars in the sky, and he had no time to break through. It's a formation that can kill you. Zuyun sneered. Luo Tianshang, what should he fear? As long as there is no head-on confrontation, he is not afraid at all now. Kill me? Zuyun, don't you want to know where Sun Qiniang is? Xianxia thought he had exploited Zuyun's weakness and threatened Sun Qiniang's life and death. Sure enough, Sun Qiniang was injured by you, and it was also in your hands. Zuyun's face turned cold. Of course, Xianxia said with a contemptuous smile, the demon refining tower is of great importance, and I'm afraid you will take it for yourself. After all, you already knew about the demon refining tower when you were in the lower realm. Don't have the intention of harming others, it's essential to be on guard against others. He couldn't see Zuyun, but he could hear something in Zuyun's tone, and he couldn't help but feel a little proud. You must never have the intention to harm others. Xianxia, you must have been plotting against me, right? He squinted his eyes, recalling his encounter with Xianxia and the deal in his cave, and secretly cursed himself for being fooled. Talking about cooperation with a stranger? It's only because I was thinking about Zhu Feng and the demon refining tower that Xianxia succeeded. Do you understand what cooperation mean? Xianxia smiled and said, if you hand over the demon refining tower, how about I tell you where Sun Qiniang is? You know, I just want the demon refining tower. Zuyun shook his head, I don't know where the demon refining tower is. This is the truth. But as soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly realized that Xianxia's goal might not be just the demon refining tower. Initial. When Xianxia told him, he wanted to use the demon refining tower to escape from the control of the 5 elements loose immortal. But now, He knew clearly that the five elements loose immortal and Ximenyu Enqing were defeated in chaos, and that the five elements loose immortal was nowhere to be found, so he could just leave if he wanted to. But he happened to find him and still wanted the demon refining tower. Does the demon refining tower have another secret, or does Zhao Qianke have a bigger plot? Judging from the current situation, Zhao Qianke seems to have actually taken control of Mianbei Fairy Kingdom. Otherwise, why would he pursue him again after discovering that several patrolmen were dead? The reason why he didn't put it out there might be because he was still afraid of Ximenyu Enqing, and what he just said was that he went to find the East and failed. Even if he becomes an immortal lord right away, he may not be able to match the two immortal emperors. And he still wants the demon refining tower. Is it for chaos? Thinking of this, Zuyun couldn't help but feel cold in his heart. According to him, he has been refining elixirs for five elements Xianxian for a long time. How could it be easy for a person who is so forbearing to take action? His heart sank, and he shouted into the immortal formation, "Master Zhao, I really don't know the demon refining tower, but I can tell you where it is. As a deal, you will tell me where Sun Qiniang is. And I will take him away from Mianbei Fairyland. What do you think?" Zhao Qianke smiled sinisterly and said, "How can I trust you? And, do you think I am at a disadvantage in this immortal formation? What's the meaning?" Zuyun was stunned. Could it be that Zhao Qianke still had some means to restrict me? But as soon as he asked, he suddenly felt a pain in his chest. A mysterious fiery power spread from the chest to the whole body. His expression changed, and he quickly used his immortal knowledge to explore the situation in his body. He suddenly saw 9 fire dragons transformed by mysterious immortal power, heading straight for his 9 meridians. 9 Yang Dragon Pill. Zuyun exclaimed. "Ha ha ha, not bad. This 9 Yang Dragon Pill, do you think it's so simple? How can you see through my alchemy skills?" "Zuyun, Sun Qiniang, forget it, that's the best main ingredient for my pills. You should think about how to survive under my hands." Under Zhao Qianke's control, the 9 immortal dragons transformed by the medicinal properties also stopped. Zuyun instantly became a lot more relaxed, but he did not directly agree to Zhao Qianke, but asked, "How did you tamper with the pill? Hands and feet? Does this pill need to be tampered with? Where do you think the huge power comes from after taking the pill?" "This is dragon power. All the immortal medicines I planted are watered with dragon blood, which makes the immortal medicine full of dragon power." "But, you don't know immortal medicine, who can you blame?" Zuyun's face turned cold, and he asked again, "So, as long as you take the 9 Yang Dragon Pill and play the effect of the medicine, at the same time, the root of evil was also buried in the body?" "No, no, no, it's not the root of evil," Zhao Qianke said with a smile. "Since you took the 9 Yang Dragon Pill, it means that you also borrowed the power of the 9 Yang Dragon Pill. You must have encountered a crisis. If there was no Dragon Pill, you would have died long ago. It can be said that I saved your life, so it's not too much for you to sell your life to me, right?" Zuyun sneered, "You are really shameless. But a mere dragon power, do you really think you can do anything to me?" Just as he was talking to Zhao Qianke, he found that his 9 meridians were also moving. This made Zuyun think of his own tempering immortal body, but he used the dragon pool as an ascension pool. It is no exaggeration to say that he is a dragon immortal body. The immortal medicine infused with dragon blood, and then refined into a pill, the dragon power in the medicinal properties, how can it be stronger than his own dragon body? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1767. Zuyun was just startled by the sudden strange feeling. He was nervous because he saw the 9 immortal dragons. At this time, seeing the 9 veins actively dissolving the 9 dragons' yang power, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. This is a coincidence. In the future, you must never take pills that do not distinguish between friend and foe. After discovering that his 9 veins can slowly dissolve the 9 dragons' yang power, Zuyun was no longer in a hurry. He decided to talk to Zhao Qianke again to find out his real purpose. As for killing Zhao Qianke, Zuyun felt that he had no ability to do so for the time being. Whether it was the law of time or the law of space. In terms of the gap in realm, Zuyun felt that it was still a bit difficult. After all, Zhao Qianke still mastered the law of 3 talents, and he didn't know to what extent he had reached. It would be more important to take advantage of his weakness at this time to find out where Sun Qiniang was. Besides, the Mayanbei Immortal Kingdom. He didn't need to come again in the future. If you want to enter the chaos, you only need to think about it and enter from the glass world. In the chaos, Zhao Qianke can only threaten him if he is an immortal. So Zuyun does not need to risk all his strength to kill Zhao Qianke. What if Ximen Yuanqing brings Dongfang by here at this time? After thinking about it, Zuyun smiled and said, Master Zhao, the demon refining tower is really not with me. If you want to find it, you can go in and find it yourself. Otherwise, I will return the immortal ring you gave me to you, and you tell me the location of Sun Qiniang. How about it? Zuyun, do you think you have a choice? Zhao Qianke laughed contemptuously. He felt that he had completely controlled Zuyun. Zuyun deliberately gritted his teeth, a look of determination flashed across his face, and he said, Lord Zhao, I, Zuyun, also have a temper. If you really don't let Sun Qiniang go, then at most we will die together. You can bet on how many immortal crystals I have on me, whether I can trap you until Ximen Xiandi comes back. Zuyun, boy, do you dare? Hearing this, Zhao Qianke's face changed. He didn't expect that Zuyun was not afraid of death. Do you think I dare? Zuyun said with a desperate look. If I fall into your hands, I will definitely not end well. You tell me about Sun Qiniang, and then tell me how to dissolve the 9 Yang dragon power, and I will turn around and leave. I don't have a demon refining tower on me, I can't take it out at all. If you force me again, I can refine one for you. Zhao Qianke took a deep breath and said, Zuyun, you are very good. I didn't expect that a little Deluo Jinxian would have the courage to fight to the death. So, you return the fairy ring to me first, and then I will tell you where Sun Qiniang is. He didn't dare to bet. He was plotting something big. If Ximen Yuanqing knew about it, he would die without a burial place. And this mysterious fairy formation, he really had no other way except to break it with a stupid method. Okay. Zuyun's heart moved, and he threw the fairy ring into the fairy formation. The fairy formation had a large space, and Zuyun planned to let him find it himself. Could it be that he would give it to him? Then, Zuyun asked, where is Sun Qiniang? In the dungeon in my cave. Zuyun, since you understand the formation, you must be able to find it, right? After feeling the breath of his fairy ring in the space of the stars, Zhao Qianke was also slightly relieved and told him the location of Sun Qiniang. What about the method to resolve the 9 dragon yang force? Zuyun asked again. Zhao Qianke said, go to my medicine garden and pick a red and green fairy medicine. After taking 9 pills in a row, the 9 yang dragon power will be dissolved and will no longer affect you. Thank you, Lord Zhao. See you later. Zuyun pretended to bow, and then sprinkled a few fairy crystals, and then turned and left. Zuyun, you. Lord Zhao, you broke the formation too fast. I was afraid that I would be caught in the cave before I found Sun Qiniang. After leaving this sentence, Zuyun left quickly. For now, it is better to find Sun Qiniang first. After thinking about it, Zuyun withdrew the heaven-changing talisman. Now it is not difficult to think that the Mayanbei fairyland was controlled by Zhao Qianke, and Zhao Qianke took himself to many places at that time, so ordinary fairies naturally recognized him. Using Yezi's face again, I am afraid that it will attract other people's attention and cause more trouble. Zuyun also walked away carelessly, but in fact he was also on high alert. Fortunately, he escaped without any danger and was not stopped by the patrol guards. Although some looked at him, they left after they found out that it was Zuyun. Zuyun was also heading towards Xiaoqiankei's cave, and they were not willing to take any risks. What if Xiaoqiankei called him there? In this way, Zuyun easily entered Xiaoqiankei's cave. He did not go to the medicine garden, but directly used the divine eye technique to look at the layout of the cave. There were also formations and restrictions in the cave, which could lead to the medicine garden or elsewhere. Soon, he found another independent space. Zuyun was about to break through, but the whole mountain suddenly shook. Feeling the huge immortal power, Zuyun's face changed. Immortal Lord. This is definitely the Immortal Lord. He quickly retracted the divine eye technique, restrained his breath, and then quietly leaned against the entrance of the cave. Although this place is on the edge of the main city, because of the height, the city is also in full view. I saw a strange immortal king, with laws surrounding him, standing proudly above the main city. 5 elements immortals, come and see me. The voice spread in all directions and fell into everyone's ears. This person is very strong. Which immortal lord is he? Moreover, he also knows the 5 elements loose immortals. Zuyun did not dare to breathe and hid tightly. But the 5 elements loose immortals had long been taken away by Lin Zhenghong and taken to Purgatory Mountain. It was normal that the immortal lord did not know. After not hearing a response, the immortal lord's face condensed, and then he took something out of his arms. It was a bit far away, so Zuyun could not see clearly. I saw a flash of immortal power, and the immortal lord suddenly looked towards Zuyun. The next moment, the immortal lord turned into a lightning and suddenly disappeared from the spot. Zuyun felt something was wrong, thinking that the immortal lord was coming for him, so he turned around and rushed into the cave. He still remembered how to get to the medicine garden. Pinching the immortal formula in his hand, he quickly broke the ban. As soon as he entered the medicine garden, Zuyun's figure flashed and fled straight back to the glass world. It seems to be here. The lightning appeared directly in the cave, revealing his figure. He didn't seem to notice Zuyun, but looked down at a jade talisman in his hand. The jade talisman glowed with fairy light and finally pointed to the depths of the cave. It's quite good at hiding. Although I don't understand the forbidden formation, I just need to break it. He looked in the direction of the jade talisman, without even moving, just uttered 4 words. Wind, cloud, thunder, lightning. Boom. The formation pattern in the depths lit up, and then exploded. Then, he saw a flaming long sword. The flame sometimes turned into Sun Qiniang, and sometimes turned into the Queen Phoenix. No wonder Qiu Linjian promised to be good to me, this girl is really extraordinary. The immortal lord murmured, stretched out his hand, and Sun Qiniang disappeared on the spot. The next moment, even the immortal king disappeared. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1768. Although Zuyun did not see the scene, he could guess a lot in the Liulai world. He knew that this was the immortal lord, but he didn't recognize him. The important thing is that it can be clearly seen that the other party is here to save Sun Qiniang. Is he from Qiu Linjian? Zuyun doesn't think so. Qiu Linjian was seriously injured. If she knew the immortal lord, why would she hide alone in the wilderness of the northern immortal realm? However, what is certain is that Sun Qiniang is safe. That's fine. It would be much more convenient to walk out of Mayan Bay Fairyland alone. Thinking of this, Zuyun walked out of the glazed world and looked into the medicine garden. Humph, this Xiaoqian still wants to trick me into taking the antidote of 9 Yang Dragon Pill. Do you really think I will be fooled? He estimated that with Xiaoqian's formation breaking speed, it would take at least one stick of incense to completely break through the Dozhuan shifting immortal formation. But at this moment, he estimated that he could take away his medicine garden. You are unkind, but don't blame me for being unjust. Zuyun grinned, looked over, and then used the Chaos Immortal power to place all the elixirs and the entire medicine garden into the glazed world. Moreover, he also contacted the dragon suppressing stone in the immortal mansion and asked him to plant these immortal medicines at the foot of the world mountain, next to the yellow dragon tree and the others. Xiaoqian has the elixir. I wonder if there are other immortal treasures. Zuyun thought for a moment and felt that he could not be too greedy, otherwise it would not be that easy for him to leave the Mayanbei fairy kingdom when he came back. While these patrols still recognize him, it would be better to take the opportunity to escape and go back to find Bei Minjian. Immediately, Zuyun flashed and walked out of Xiaoqian's cave, and then followed the memory of when he came and rushed to the border of Mayanbei fairy kingdom. Sun Qiniang is seriously injured. I wonder how Zuyun is doing. In the Chinese immortal realm, Qiu Linjian sat in front of Ye Yang and murmured. Unfortunately, Ye Yang did not respond to him, as if he was a dead person. Brother Yang, why don't you wake up yet? Qiu Linjian gently caressed his face, then stood up, stood outside the imperial palace, and looked toward the sky in the distance. This is the Chinese immortal emperor's mansion. But except for Ye Yang, who was lying on the bed behind him, there was no one. Feeling Qiu Linjian's back, Ye Yang opened his eyes, looked at the shackles on his hands and feet, smiled to himself, and then closed his eyes again. It seemed like he was in a coma again. For a long time. A few days. Lord Fenjian Thunder and Lightning returned here with Sun Qiniang. Besides her, have you seen anyone else? Qiu Linjian looked at Sun Qiniang, who looked like a sword but not a sword, a human but not a human, and a fire but not a fire, and asked the immortal king in front of her. Fairy Queen, I am only responsible for saving people, but I am not responsible for helping you see who else is there. Lord Fenjian Thunder and Lightning didn't seem to want to see Qiu Linjian. Qiu Linjian disagreed and chuckled, if you don't look at it, don't look at it. What are you doing with such a frozen expression? I, Qiu Linjian, have never done anything to feel sorry for you. Huh, Lord Fenjian Thunder also snorted, and turned away, leaving only one sentence, I owe you 3 things, and now there is only one thing left. After finishing the last thing, I left the Chinese immortal realm and pursued my own path. I, Qiu Linjian, have sworn the oath of immortality, so I will naturally keep my word. I haven't thought about the 3rd thing yet. I'll tell you when I do. Hearing this charming laughter, Lord Fenjian and Thunder left here expressionlessly. After a while, Qiu Linjian controlled Sun Qiniang, stood in front of Ye Yang, and sat on the edge of the bed. Brother Yang, 2 destined ones appeared on this yellow star. For a moment, I couldn't make up my mind, who is the destined one you need. However, now that the female destined one is seriously injured, I simply put her stay in the Chinese immortal realm. After saying this, Qiu Linjian casually threw Sun Qiniang aside. Qiu Linjian also sat here for a long time without saying a word. Ye Yang also seemed to be unconscious and did not move for a long time. At the same time, Zuyun escaped from Mayanbei fairyland without any danger. Call. He took a deep breath and looked to the west. Now that he has completely mastered the law of 4 symbols, he has an innate instinct for sensing directions in the world of immortality. The direction can be determined accurately. To the west of Mayanbei Immortal Kingdom is the Northern Immortal Realm. Zuyun can accurately know the location of the Northern Immortal Emperor Realm just by thinking about it. While no one in the Mayan Bay fairyland was looking for him, Zuyun dove into the northern fairyland. What a coincidence! Two streams of light came from behind. Extremely fast. Originally, I was going to Mayan Bay fairyland. But after discovering Zuyun, he quickly changed his direction and chased Zuyun straight. Immortal Lord. Zuyun's expression changed and he quickly used the divine eye technique. Thousands of miles away, he recognized one of the immortal lords. Damn it, Zaiman Yuanqing! Zuyun exclaimed, turned around without hesitation, and flew towards the northern immortal emperor realm. One of them is Zaiman Yuanqing, and the other one. It must be Dongfang immortal emperor. Dongfang is defeated. The two immortal emperors came together, presumably planning to rush into the Mayan Bay immortal kingdom and settle the score with themselves. Zuyun didn't dare to express his anger. Obviously, Zaiman Yuanqing suddenly changed direction, and he must have discovered his existence. But, how did he find it from such a distance? Is it this 7-star bracelet? While Zuyun was running wildly, he also looked down at the bracelet on his wrist. However, this bracelet did not react at all under his seal. Moreover, Zaiman Yuanqing's remaining consciousness was also completely locked in it. Since it was not the 7-star bracelet, then how did he find it? Dongfang Bai? Zuyun was not sure. He had never met Dongfang Bai, let alone what he was capable of. Perhaps, the law that Dongfang Bai practiced was related to this. Zuyun did not think much, just ran wildly. It's not that he couldn't enter the glazed world to hide. But Zuyun was afraid that if they lost his trace, they would directly enter the chaos. Although the chaos was vast, the possibility of finding his glazed world was extremely small. But in this way, it was at least a way to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Keeping them away from the Mayan Bay Immortal Kingdom is equivalent to keeping them away from the chaos. In addition, it also buys some time for Xianxia to break through the Immortal King realm earlier. At that time, maybe he can help delay a little time, so that the two immortal emperors will want to enter the chaos and find the origin fountain, which will not be so easy. Zuyun ran all the way with this idea in mind. Finally, he approached the northern immortal emperor realm without any danger. When there was still a distance of 100 miles, the two immortal emperors had to hide their breath. Obviously they were afraid of Beiminjiun. In the end, they could only watch Zuyun enter the northern immortal emperor realm. Brother Yuanqing, it seems that we can only go to find the origin fountain first. Dongfang Bai chuckled, and without waiting for Zaiman Yuanqing to respond, he turned around and left. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1769. Zaiman Yuanqing had no choice but to follow. If he stayed for a while longer, he would probably be discovered by Beiminjiun. It's not that they are afraid of Beiminjiun. It's just that it's extremely inappropriate for the immortal emperor to rush into other immortal realms. In particular, they had no close relationship with Beiminjiun. Brother Dongfang, you said that we are going to enter the chaos directly, but stay in the Mayan Bay Fairy Kingdom first. For a moment, Zaiman Yuanqing had no idea. He just wanted to ask Dongfang Bai for help. What fun is there in the Mayan Bay Immortal Kingdom? They are just some ordinary immortals that you sold there. If you want to go there, go directly to chaos. In recent years, many top-quality immortal weapons or supreme immortal treasures have disappeared for no reason. I guess it's in the chaos. If you go and search it, it has a unique flavor. Zaiman Yuanqing smiled bitterly and said, but in the chaos, the realm will be suppressed. Actually, now the 5 elements loose immortal is nowhere to be seen. With Zuyun's ability, it is absolutely impossible to break the protection of the Emperor's chain and kill the 5 elements loose immortal. I am worried that I will encounter the 5 elements immortal inside. Dongfang Bai said disdainfully, even if we can meet the 5 elements loose immortal, so what? Although he is an immortal lord, we are two people. Ximen Yuanqing shook his head and said, but what if he found the Chaos Lotus? Chaos Lotus? Do you have news about Chaos Lotus? Dongfang Bai's eyes suddenly lit up. In the entire immortal world, the most valuable elixir is Chaos Lotus. This exists in legends. I have only heard people describe it, but no one has ever taken out the actual thing. Of course, Dongfang Yuanqing looked back at the direction Zuyun was leaving. He would not tell Dongfang Bai that Zuyun was pregnant with Chaos Lotus. Otherwise, wouldn't he be missing a helper? Withdrawing his gaze, Ximen Yuanqing said, the five elements loose immortal walks with me in chaos. I do it for the source of origin, but he does it for the Chaos Lotus. Previously, Zuyun trapped the five elements loose immortal with the Emperor Chain of Purgatory Mountain. This time he discovered but he is traveling alone. He must not have brought the five elements loose immortal with him. It is possible that he will be exiled to chaos. In this case, if the five elements loose immortal finds a way to the Chaos Lotus, you say. I know. Dongfang Bai waved his hands impatiently after listening to Ximen Yuanqing's tirade, and said, I also want the Chaos Lotus. I'll just follow you into the chaos. But first, you call me come here to help, I can't do anything. In this way, if there is news about the source of spring, I will look for you first. If there is Chaos Lotus first, I will look for mine first. What do you think? Ximen Yuanqing smiled, that's how it should be. Dongfang Bai also smiled, but if there are other immortal weapons that I'm interested in, as long as I go look for them, you have to help me, how about that? Nature. As long as he is deceived into chaos, Ximen Yuanqing can certainly agree. He suffered greatly in the chaos. Although Zuyun has left, on the other hand, there is one less threat in the chaos. Although the sun was only a golden immortal at the time, it was previously discovered that he had already broken through to the great Luo golden immortal. But his performance in the chaos was an eye-opener for Ximen Yuanqing. There are so many methods and so many rules. However, as long as I get the fountain of origin, Zuyun, no matter how good you are, you can only become my slave. Ximen Yuanqing flashed a look of resentment, and then he and Dongfang Bai headed straight towards the Mayanbei Fairy Kingdom. After following Zuyun for so long, Xianxia in the Immortal Kingdom had already escaped from the ice cave. Damn Zuyun, I didn't expect to be so insidious and take away the entire dragon blood medicine garden that I worked so hard to manage. Seeing that the medicine garden disappeared out of thin air, leaving only a bare open space, veins popped out on Xianxia's forehead. With the turmoil in the fairy world over the years, the true dragon and phoenix clans have slowly disappeared. He also got a real dragon a few years ago, before it fell into the hands of the five elements loose immortal, and killed it quietly. Later, he was captured by the five elements loose immortal. In desperation, he used dragon blood to cultivate the elixir, just to refine better elixirs, so that one day he could escape alive, or help him break through to the realm of the immortal lord. But now, the entire medicine garden is gone. No matter how scheming he is. But it's hard for a clever woman to make a meal without rice. But for a person like him, eggs will naturally not be put in one basket. Zuyun is extremely cunning. If that doesn't work, we can only start with them. Xianxia took a deep breath and then looked into the depths of the cave. After he calmed down, the power of law lingered in his hand, and 3 rays of light rushed out of the array with the immortal power. Heaven, earth, people. The rule of 3 talents. Call out. There was a sound of breaking through the sky, and a door to space suddenly appeared in the depths of the cave. However, the door frame of the space door has no entity and is constantly swaying, as if it may collapse at any time. If we reach the Immortal Lord realm, the space of these 3 talents will be much more stable. If it doesn't work, then we won't care about the Mayanbei Immortal Kingdom for the time being, and focus on making a breakthrough. Xiaoqianke murmured to himself and ducked into this space. If Zuyun were here, he would definitely be shocked. This space is very similar to his early Zilang secret realm, and it is actually a completely new world. But in comparison, this world is still much simpler. It has a different aura and is extremely thin. It was simply incomparable to Zuyun's at that time. Xiaoqianke fled in one direction. This was a space created by him. Although it was not very stable, he was invincible here. After a few breaths, he appeared in front of a village. There were actually people in this world. In fact, these people were kept here by Xiaoqianke. Meet the immortal. Seeing Xiaoqianke's sudden arrival, the vast crowd all knelt on the ground. Xiaoqianke nodded slightly, but no one dared to stand up. He did not speak either. Until a few breaths later, the crowd behind surged. 3 boys walked to the front of the crowd with extremely reluctant looks. Or rather, they were pushed here step by these people. Are the talents of these 3 people the heaven and earth? Xiaoqianke said lightly. The so-called talent root is because he called this world the 3 talents world, which he created with countless energy according to the 3 talents law. And these people are all mortals who have lived and multiplied here, adapted to this heavenly way, and produced talents that can practice the laws. Talents are divided into 3 types, namely heaven, earth, and man. The 3 boys in front of them are of the same age, but their talents are different. Yes, immortal. The oldest one kneeled and looked at the oldest cultivator and said. Very good, Xiaoqianke chuckled, I will take these 3 away, you continue to prepare, and I will come again in 3 days. He gently stretched out his hand, and the 3 people actually went directly into his sleeves, and Xiaoqianke also returned to his cave in an instant. Another flash in front of his eyes, Xiaoqianke appeared in his alchemy room. If 1 Sankei pill is not enough, then 2, if 2 are not enough, then 3. Xiaoqianke whispered, and threw the 3 children from his sleeves directly into the alchemy furnace. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1770. The 3-talented elixir that Xiaoqianke talks about is the elixir made by boys with 3 kinds of talents from heaven and earth. If Zuyun were here, he would definitely behead him. It's a pity that not to mention other people in the Mayan Bay Immortal Kingdom, even the 5 elements loose immortals don't know that Xiaoqianke is doing such unscrupulous things. It can be said that his behavior is a bit more vicious than that of the evil immortal. However, in the fairy world, who doesn't want to go to the next level and reach the legendary fairy world? As powerful as the immortal master Xianwu Trace, he went to chaos to find a greater immortal fate, but ended up losing his own source of origin in it. As for Nangong Tianli, he finally managed to escape from the demon world, and was finally able to sit on the throne of the immortal emperor. In the end, in order to create a world, he ended up dying at the hands of Zuyun. There are rumors in the fairy world that one can find hope to go to the upper world in the chaos, or build a world and ascend from the fairy world. Of course, no matter which theory it is, it has not been verified. No one has ever known how to leave the fairy world and reach the upper level. There are no creatures above the fairy world that come to the fairy world. It is said that there are no years in cultivating immortals, but the ones who really have no time are these immortals who will not have any danger of longevity at all. Everyone has desires. Once they no longer worry about longevity, they will pursue more things. The moment Zuyun stepped into the northern immortal emperor realm, his heart suddenly relaxed. After taking a breath, he went straight to the immortal emperor's mansion and entered the emperor's palace. But instead of meeting Bei Minjiun, he met Situ Qingchen. Minor, why are you here? Zuyun stared and learned from Sun Qiniang and Mengwei that Situ Qingchen was with Qiu Linjian. I can't dig here, Situ Qingchen said angrily, then sat directly under the floor tiles, folded his hands on his knees, and said with a wry smile, I have nowhere to go now. Zuyun asked strangely, why, you are locked up in the imperial palace. How about I tell Xiaobei? Xiaobei. Sidu Qingchen was stunned for a moment, then his expression changed drastically. Zuyun, don't shout randomly, this is the nickname of Immortal Emperor Biming. Zuyun glanced at him and said, I can't help it. I can only call her by her nickname here, otherwise I'm afraid of getting beaten. Sidu Qingchen looked confused, but Zuyun suddenly sensed something and looked towards the screen behind Bei Minjiun's throne. Xiaoqi? No, that's not right, Fairy Lu. That's not right either. Feeling two familiar auras intertwined, Zuyun was also surprised. But Qiuqi found that he couldn't hide anymore, so he had no choice but to walk out from behind the screen. Here, she no longer needs to hide her aura. It was clearly Lu Ruyan's body, but it was filled with the aura of a demon fox. Are you Qiuqi or Lu Ruyan? Zuyun asked with wide eyes. I am Qiuqi, Qiuqi cried. Zuyun, Qiu Linjian wants to harm you. What? Zuyun's expression changed, and when he thought of all the things that happened to Qiuqi, and what he had experienced in that wilderness, he took a deep breath. Whenever something important was mentioned, Qiu Linjian turned his attention to him. After all, the most is about Zuyun himself. It was also the case that Zuyun guessed what Qiu Linjian was planning on him. But he never thought that Qiu Linjian would harm him. Really, he wants to harm you. As for how, I don't know. Ever since I followed Aunt Tang to the fairy world, she found her. Qiuqi's words made Zuyun tremble all over. Why, were you found by her? At best, you are just the same race. Qiuqi wiped away his tears and said, yes, I am a member of her race, but in fact, I am a remnant of her soul that was raised on the yellow star. Are you, her remnant soul? Zuyun opened his mouth wide, his face full of disbelief. Indeed, the immortal lord has such ability. Just like Ye Yang, he also guessed that there seemed to be some incompatibility between the timelines of Ye Yang, the yellow star, and Ye Yang, the immortal king of the immortal world and the Chinese immortal emperor. He already had suspicions, but they were not verified. According to Lin Zhenghong, few of Qiu Linjian's 10 sentences are credible. But he never thought that Qiu Linjian wanted to harm him. At most, they treat him as a chess piece. Then why did you tell me? Zuyun calmed down and asked quietly. Because, you were the first person I met. I still remember that you were such a fool and saved my life. Zuyun suddenly realized. I remembered my first encounter with Qiuqi, not long after I learned the 5 elements escape technique. At that time, he used the golden escape technique to transform into a golden spirit body, thinking that it would be easier to walk in the 10,000 monsters mountain. Unexpectedly, Qiuqi turned out to be the remnant soul of Qiu Linjian. But why didn't he melt you back? Zuyun took back his mind and asked in confusion. Because she wanted to deceive Ye Yuan, but she didn't expect that she would meet you so soon. This answer surprised Zuyun. Is it mainly because of Ye Yuan? Yes, Ye Yuan is his son, and Lu Ruyan is just an ordinary cultivator who ascended with him. He didn't trust Lu Ruyan, and was afraid that Lu Ruyan would reveal some of his secrets, so he broke up Lu Ruyan's immortal soul and put my demon soul into it. She was also afraid that Ye Yuan would turn against her. Zuyun sighed. If Qiu Linjian was such a vicious person, she would actually consider her son in such a trivial matter. Then what kind of person is she, Demon Fox Immortal Lord? Now, where is she? Qiuqi thought for a while and said, it seems that she went to Zhongfang Immortal Domain. Zhongfang Immortal Domain. Zuyun's body was shocked, and he immediately thought of the Lord of Wind, Cloud, Thunder, and Lightning, whom he didn't know. Then Sun Qiniang was also taken to Zhongfang Immortal Domain? When Zimen Yuanqing and Dongfang Bai gave up the pursuit, Zuyun couldn't help thinking about other immortals, and naturally thought of the Lord of Wind, Cloud, Thunder, and Lightning. Even if the two immortal emperors have immortal monarchs under their command, they will not go to chaos alone to save Sun Qiniang, right? Let's exclude Beiminjiun and the southern immortal realm, which is now in chaos. Only the central immortal realm is possible. But at this time, the news of Qiu Linjian going to the central immortal realm was learned. So, is she going to find Ye Yang? Isn't it said that Ye Yang is unconscious, and there is still an immortal monarch in charge of the central immortal realm? Zhu Yun took a breath of cold air. Could it be that the immortal monarch went to save Sun Qiniang? Seeing Zhu Yun's sudden expression, Sidu Qingchen said, Zhu Yun, if you are afraid, you can stay here. Anyway, ordinary people dare not break into the Northern Immortal Emperor's mansion, and the Northern Immortal Emperor can protect you. Isn't it better to lie down here with me? After that, he really lay on the ground. But suddenly, a fairy thunder came from outside the Immortal Emperor's mansion and hit Sidu Qingchen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1771. Sidu, be careful. Zhu Yun exclaimed. This fairy thunder was very familiar to him, it was Ye Yuan's. But, how could he appear outside the imperial palace? But obviously, Ye Yuan had planned it for a long time. This fairy thunder was so strong and fast that Sidu Qingchen couldn't react in time when he lay down. Moreover, he did not have the teleportation method like the lower realm, and his own realm did not have an advantage. Apart from being beaten hard, this time, it is impossible to escape. Zhu Yun also saw this, let alone taking the immortal soul hammer to help him block it. Even if he took his immortal realm, it was far too late. In desperation, he stretched his hand forward and shouted at the same time. Time stands still. Moment. The immortal thunder suddenly stopped and hung motionless on Sidu Qingchen's heavenly spirit cover. It's like a painting of fairy thunder, so beautiful that you can even see the tiny winding snakes on it. It was only at this time that Sidu Qingchen realized what he was doing. He quickly rolled to the side and shouted in shock, Ye Yuan, do I have a humming grudge against you? He cursed loudly. That's all it can do, it's impossible to take action, Ye Yuan's strength is much higher than him. Sidu Qingchen. Die. Zhu Yun used the law of time to make Ye Yuan's charged attack miss, but he didn't say a word to Zhu Yun at all, and instead ran to the imperial palace, holding the thunder immortal hammer in his hand, and looked towards Sidu with a murderous look on his face. Qingchen smashed over. Ye Yuan, that's enough. Zhu Yun's eyes narrowed, and he already guessed something in his heart. With a flash of his body, he took out the fairy mirror from his chest and raised it. Clang. Gold and iron clashed, the thunder immortal hammer flooded with lightning and hit the immortal mirror, but it was unable to break through Zhu Yun's defense. Are you also a Deluo Jinxian? Ye Yuan was a little surprised, but he shouted in shock, Zhu Yun, do you want to stop me too? Ye Yuan, calm down. Zhu Yun naturally did not show weakness and roared, Lu Ruyan is already dead, and the murderer is your mother. What? Ye Yuan suddenly stood on the spot. Zhu Yun knew that Ye Yuan must have discovered that Lu Ruyan was missing after returning to the wilderness, and then he guessed that it was Sidu Qingchen who did it, so he went all the way to the Northern Immortal Emperor realm. As for why he spent so much time, he must have wanted to sneak into the imperial palace and serve. And he just wanted to find Lu Ruyan. In fact, he had already discovered that the aura on Lu Ruyan's body had changed. That's why he thought that Sidu Qingchen did everything, so he found an opportunity today and planned to kill Sidu Qingchen. Lu Ruyan takes revenge. As for the consequences, such a sincere person never considers his own life or death. The worst case scenario is that he will die in this imperial palace. But Zhu Yun directly told the truest situation. Lu Ruyan died at the hands of Qiu Linjian. No. Impossible, my mother likes Yan'er so much. Ye Yuan simply couldn't accept this fact. He is not stupid. He knew who Zhu Yun was, and he believed in him very much. He won't do anything blindly. And looking back, this possibility is also very high. Your mother? Zhu Yun smiled bitterly. He wanted to say what Lin Zhenghong told him. Qiu Linjian couldn't believe it, but when the words came to his lips, he swallowed them back. Of course Qiu Linjian cares about Ye Yuan. But she only wants a result and doesn't care about the process. Maybe no one thought of it? Just because he wanted to find Qiu Qi, he asked Bei Minjiun to find the wilderness, and finally found Lu Ruyan. Ye Yuan, at this time, Qiu Qi stepped forward and said softly, I was also forced. In fact, your mother killed Lu Ruyan the day you and Lu Ruyan arrived in the wilderness. Qiu Qi, are you the little fox following my mother? Ye Yuan burst into tears. Well, yes, I am the little fox in the 10,000 demon mountains, but I arrived at the immortal realm earlier than you through the immortal ascension platform. After Qiu Qi finished speaking, he retreated. Originally she was acting with Ye Yuan. Now that Zhu Yun said it directly, it was due to this. Although it is a bit cruel, now that Ye Yuan is here, he will have to face the scene sooner or later. Long-term pain is worse than short-term pain. Qiu Qi suddenly understood what Zhu Yun meant. Zhu Yun also stepped forward and said, Ye Yuan, actually you knew it in the lower world. The fairy world is far from as stable as you imagined. Maybe your mother also has difficulties. Ye Yuan sat slumped on the ground and threw the thunder immortal hammer beside him. After a long time, he stood up and said, Zhu Yun, do you have any plans? Recalling the time rules Zhu Yun had used before, Ye Yuan naturally knew that Zhu Yun's future was limitless. Zhu Yun smiled mockingly, I want peace in the fairy world. Ye Yuan was speechless, then took a deep breath and said, but I just want my Yan'er. Everyone has his own ambitions. Zhu Yun suddenly thought of these 4 words. After death, maybe you can be resurrected? Zhu Yun thought for a moment and said. Resurrection from the dead. Ye Yuan raised his eyebrows, and then laughed loudly, Zhu Yun, don't be kidding. How can a person come back to life after death? Yes, my Yan'er's body is still there. But there is another person hidden in her body. People. You don't have to lie to me. Zhu Yun smiled and said, Ye Yuan, do you think I want to hang you up with this and let you help me maintain the peace in this fairy world? You think too much. No one can help me with my affairs. He saw what Ye Yuan was thinking and had no scruples. In fact, for him, the most important thing is that Ye Yuan does not become a thug of the central fairyland. Otherwise, wouldn't it be more of a hindrance than a help? Zhu Yun said again, Ye Yuan, did you see me use the law of time just now? Without waiting for Ye Yuan to nod, Zhu Yun waved his hand, the long river of time. He just wanted to show his ability to Ye Yuan, not to save people from it, so there was no need to consume a larger long river of time and space. Moreover, he did not want to reveal that he had realized the law of time and space. The scene that just happened was presented in front of everyone. The whole hall was silent. Everyone was shocked by Zhu Yun's means. Zhu Yun smiled slightly, and before the long river of time dissipated, he said, you said, if I retreat this long river of time to the time when you just met your mother, can I pull her out of it and give you a Lu fairy who just arrived in the fairyland? Ye Yuan's breathing became rapid. He knew that what Zhu Yun said was true. When the laws of time had completely dissipated, Zhu Yun spoke, Ye Yuan, I have the ability to reunite you with Fairy Lu, but not now. Ye Yuan raised his head abruptly, his eyes gleaming, and said, then, what do you need me to do? Zhu Yun chuckled, Yayuan, we are friends. I don't need you to do anything, I just want you, not to be my enemy. I understand. Yayuan nodded and turned around. I will go and practice hard, and when there is no more chaos in the fairy world, I will come to find you again. Zuyun's heart moved, and he said, I think you can go to the central fairyland to find your seventh sister. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1772. You're talking about, Qiniang. She's not. Yayuan knew that Sun Qiniang was summoned by Bei Minjiun to the immortal emperor realm. And when he got into this place, he actually used Sun Qiniang's name to apply for a job transfer, and finally became a guard of the imperial palace. That's why it took so much time to wait until Zuyundu came back from chaos before he became a guard of the imperial palace. But in the end, he had no revenge to take. The person who killed Lu Ruyan was his biological mother Qiu Linjian. But fortunately, Zuyun showed him a clear path. Isn't seventh sister's situation not so good? Yayuan cheered up and said. Yes, Zuyun nodded solemnly and said, the last time I saw her, she was neither a human nor a sword nor a phoenix fire. However, an immortal king rescued her and took her away. I don't know that immortal lord, but I guess he is in the Chinese immortal realm. Yayuan frowned and said, how could there be an immortal lord in the Chinese immortal realm to save seventh sister? Maybe it's your mother's relationship, Zuyun said seriously, because your mother also went to the Chinese immortal realm. But, if my mother could go to the Chinese immortal realm, why would she hide in the northern immortal realm? Yayuan was confused. I don't know about that, Zuyun smiled, but what I know is that your mother will not harm you, and Sun Qiniang recognizes your mother as her godmother. The situation is unclear at the moment. Maybe you can go to the Chinese immortal realm to find out. Just some news. Yayuan smiled bitterly, I'm afraid that if I go to the Chinese immortal realm, it will be too conspicuous, in case there are enemies lurking in the dark. After all, I am only the great Luo Jingxian. Zuyun thought for a moment and said, in this way, I can help you change your appearance. As long as others don't look closely, they won't be able to tell. Having said that, he used the Chaos Immortal power to not only use his finger as a pen, but also formed a talisman when the characters were formed. Like the paper charms from the lower realm. Turn spirit into reality. Zuyun actually achieved this level. In fact, this was also Lin Zhenghong's ability to teach him the divine eye technique. The heavenly talisman is not just drawn like the spiritual talisman. It's just that Zuyun hasn't had much use for it. Zuyun drew several pictures one after another and handed them to Yayuan, saying, each talisman can guarantee 1 month's time. You can use it at critical moments. Still subject to his realm. There are only so many people he can help, Yayuan and Sun Qiniang. I understand, Yayuan nodded, and then said, by the way, if the immortal lord who rescued Qiniang really comes from the Chinese immortal realm, then he is most likely to be the Lord of Thunder and Lightning. This immortal lord is extremely powerful and does not like to interact with others. There are many rumors in the immortal world nowadays. Some people say that my father was injured by him and he wants to take the position of immortal emperor. But some people say that my father was harmed by others. He was injured, and then asked him to take care of the Chinese immortal domain. Zuyun nodded and said, I understand, thank you. Although the situation in the Chinese immortal domain is confusing. But for Zuyun at this time, it is not the most important thing. In contrast, the matter of Ximen Yuanqing and Dongfang Bai joining forces was what he needed to pay attention to right now. The southern fairyland is also in chaos. But there is no one to lead, no one to sit on the throne of the immortal emperor. It's just a plate of loose sand. Even the evil immortals, extraterrestrial demons, etc. Zuyun didn't take it to heart for the time being. If you want to fight against the outside world, you must make peace with the inside. At this time, Zuyun only had the power to borrow from the northern immortal realm and Purgatory Mountain. I don't know how Brother Lin is doing. Zuyun watched Ye Yuan leave and let out a long sigh of relief. But at this time, Bei Minjiun suddenly walked out from behind the screen. Xiao Bei, have you always been there? Zuyun was stunned. He, of course I am here. Otherwise, how could we see a good show? Bei Minjiun didn't seem to care at all. Zuyun smiled bitterly and said, actually, you already knew that Ye Yuan wanted to attack Situ. Beside him, Situ Qingchen also looked helpless. Why, it has nothing to do with me, yet everyone wants to deal with me. Of course I know, but this is the first time I know Ye Yuan's identity. I didn't expect that he is the son of Qiu Linjian and Ye Yang. Bei Minjiun was also a little surprised by this. Actually, the immortal soldiers and generals who serve in our northern immortal emperor's palace have all been tested. It's not a test of strength, but a test of character. If there is any evil intention, it is impossible to stay. Bei Minjiun also became serious and looked outside the palace, as if watching Ye Yuan leave. However, she quickly turned her head, looked Zuyun up and down, and said, it seems that you have benefited a lot from Chaos and his party this time. Not only has your realm improved, but you have also understood the law of time. This time stands still and the long river of time, even I can't do it. Zuyun touched his nose and said, then do you still want to hear about bigger gains? Bei Minjiun's eyes lit up and he said, in the Mayanbei Immortal Kingdom, have you found out the purpose of Ximen Yuanqing and the 5 elements Xianxia? This is not considered a gain, Zuyun smiled mysteriously and said, the biggest gain is that the 5 elements loose immortal has been killed. Dead. Bei Minjiun also exclaimed, but then shook his head and said, no matter how strong you are, you can't deal with an immortal lord. But, you have the Emperor Chain. Right? You used the Emperor Chain to trap the 5 elements loose immortal. But, the Emperor's Chain will protect the 5 elements loose immortal because of his immortality, so you can't kill him, it's not a good choice for you to exile him in chaos. Bei Minjiun speculated on his own, but he was not happy in the end. Zuyun smiled, no, I asked another immortal lord to take him to Purgatory Mountain. If nothing else happens, the position you have been in before will be handed over to him. But now the actual controller of Purgatory Mountain is still Lin Fei. Bei Minjiun said subconsciously, but Zuyun smiled even more mysteriously. Immediately, she took a step forward, grabbed Zuyun's right hand with both hands and shook it back and forth, good brother, tell me quickly, what's going on, don't show off. Zuyun shuddered all over and immediately begged for mercy, I say, don't talk to me in this tone. I really can't stand it. The maximum limit of his tolerance is to call Bei Minjiun Xiaobei. If she continued to lower herself to being a younger sister, it was as if a cat was scratching his heart. I found Lin Zhenghong and gave him the Emperor Chain and the 5 elements loose immortal, and he took them back to Purgatory Mountain. Lin Zhenghong? Really? Bei Minjiun was overjoyed. Of course it's true, Zuyun raised his eyebrows and smiled, besides, my next plan will also require the help of Purgatory Mountain, so I plan to go to Purgatory Mountain now. It's not difficult to go to Purgatory Mountain, Bei Minjiun said thoughtfully, it's just that I haven't noticed anything unusual in Purgatory Mountain. What if Lin Zhenghong doesn't go back? Zuyun smiled and said, even if he doesn't go back, Purgatory Mountain is still under Lin Fei's control, but are you still afraid of Lin Fei without the Emperor Chain? Bei Minjiun suddenly understood. She giggled and said, let's go. I've endured it for a long time. This time I tied her up with a rope, and then spread his buttocks. At that time, he used fire to burn me, and I used ice to freeze him. At this moment, Bei Minjiun seemed to be a different person. Qiu Qi and Sidu Qingchen were stunned. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1773. I'll go too. Seeing the two of them turning a blind eye, as if they didn't exist and were leaving as soon as they said they were there, Sidu Qingchen also reacted and quickly stood up from the ground with a shout. You! What are you going to do? Bei Minjiun looked back with confusion on his face. Just don't go there, you can't control it. Zuyun also said with a smile. Zuyun, you are gone, and the immortal emperor is also gone. I am afraid that the immortal lord will come and kill you. What should I do? Sidu Qingchen almost cried. No, Zuyun said with a smile, Ziman Yuanqing and Dongfang Bai both went to Mianbei Fairy Kingdom, they will not come here. This is what he saw with his own eyes. At that time, the two immortal emperors chased him all the way to the northern immortal emperor realm more than 100 miles away. Even if they didn't go to Mianbei Fairyland, Dongfang Bai and Ziman Yuanqing wouldn't dare to come. Bei Minjiun also chimed in. Zuyun was surprised and said, then why were you afraid that Dongfang Bai would raid here before? You don't know, Bei Minjiun said with a sweet smile, the northern beasts have awakened. Presumably the ancient beasts in their major fairy realms have also awakened. Naturally, they don't dare to rush into my fairy land again. Ancient mythical beast? 4 elephants. Zuyun was stunned. Yes, Suanwu guards the northern immortal territory, how dare they come here? Now our northern immortal territory is protected by the Suanwu divine beast, and the Suanwu divine beast is the main defense. Not to mention that our entire immortal territory is impregnable, at least within the territory of the northern immortal emperor. It's really difficult for ordinary immortals to come in. You mean? Zuyun was also greatly shocked. Do ancient mythical beasts still exist? It's just that it's very safe here, Bei Minjiun smiled and turned to look at Sidu Qingchen and said, besides, you are now my distinguished guests in the northern immortal emperor realm, and there are so many Lucian celestial immortals guarding you outside. It's very safe. On the other hand, if there's a fight in Purgatory Mountain, we won't care about you. You're a golden immortal, so you shouldn't be beaten, right? Although his tone was calm and relaxed, Sidu Qingchen felt as if he had been insulted, making him speechless and choked. When he came to his senses, Bei Minjiun and Zuyun had already left the imperial palace and flew into the sky. After flying into Huanyu, Bei Minjiun was about to take out his immortal boat, but was stopped by Zuyun. Xiao Bei, let's fly over. To be honest, we'd better be careful. Lin Zhenghong seemed trustworthy. But what if, instead of returning to Purgatory Mountain, he got lost in the chaos? That's not good. Although, without the Emperor Chain, Lin Fei would never be able to defeat Bei Minjiun. But it shouldn't be difficult to beat yourself. Zuyun didn't have to worry about Bei Minjiun, he still had to worry about himself. Well, it's up to you. Bei Minjiun was not like an immortal emperor at all, so he put away his hand, and then flew towards Purgatory Mountain with Zuyun. It's just that, if they go to Purgatory Mountain, it will probably take at least a month. A few days later, Yayuan had arrived at the Chinese immortal realm. Looking at the translucent fairy realm formation wall, Yayuan took a deep breath, took out the heavenly talisman Zuyun gave him, and stuck it on his face. The next moment, Yayuan changed his face. But the realm cannot be hidden or changed. Even if he restrained his breath, he was discovered by the border patrol guarding here. 3 Deluo Jinxian stood here and stopped Yayuan. Which immortal realm are you from? Why do you want to come to our Chinese immortal realm? A Deluo Jinxian said coldly. This immortal friend is originally a loose immortal from the southern immortal realm. I heard that something happened in my hometown of immortal realm, so I was anxious to go back. But the detour was too far, so I wanted to use the Chinese immortal realm and asked 3 people to come. It's convenient, let me pass by, okay. Ye Yuan also said politely. On the surface, the Chinese immortal realm is an evil preventing fairy. But no one knows whether it is true or not. There is really too little news about the Chinese immortal realm. You can borrow it, but it needs to be tested. Next to him, another Deluo Jingxian responded, took out an immortal weapon from his arms and threw it towards Ye Yang. Put your hand on it, and then pour the immortal power into it. Remember, if there is any abnormality, we will not give you a chance to explain, and we will kill you directly. This Deluo Jingxian was not polite at all, and it would be extremely appropriate to say that he was overcorrecting. Ye Yuan naturally knew that after reaching out to catch the immortal weapon, he put his hand up. After entering the power of Thunder Immortal, the immortal weapon glowed with purple fairy light. Practice the law of thunder. The immortal frowned at first, then relaxed his brows and said, "Fellow immortal, can you tell me your name?" Hearing this, Ye Yuan was stunned for a moment, wondering what the 3 patrolmen meant. However, he still returned the previous immortal weapon and said, "My surname is Sun, and my single name is a distant character. I heard from Qiu Linjian that there are very few people named Ye in the immortal world." He was afraid that his surname would cause trouble in the Chinese immortal realm. But thinking that he was here for Sun Qiniang, he simply borrowed the surname Sun. "It turns out to be Sun Xianxia," one of them said with a smile after taking back the immortal weapon. "Sun Xianxia seems to be only proficient in one kind of thunder power law. At this time when our Chinese immortal realm is short of people, and you are the thunder power law, no matter how good it is, but that's it. We, Lord Fenjiun and Lightning, are looking for such an immortal." "Oh." Ye Yuan's eyes lit up and he said, "Is there such a good thing? Your Majesty is a unique immortal lord." "That's natural," the 3 Deluo golden immortals also laughed and said, "Your Majesty is immersed in cultivation, and he also wants to help the immortals who share the same law with him to cultivate. If you can become his disciple, your path to immortality is limitless. I wonder if Sun Xianyu is interested." Ye Yuan couldn't ask for it. But after all, the previous reason has been used. If he agrees directly, what if they arouse suspicion? "Friend Sun, there are priorities. You can go back and take a look first. However, if you miss this opportunity, it may be lost. After all, if you go to the southern fairyland, even if you have a good ferry boat, let alone the consumption of fairy crystals. Even if there is, it will take several months to go back and forth." The other party's persuasion was tantamount to giving Ye Yuan a step up. He pretended to be entangled, and then said, "How about this, the 3 immortal friends, ask me to find a fairyland nearby, and then ask someone to inquire about it? If something big really happens, I will go back. If so. If it's not important, I would naturally like to stay in the immortal realm and practice the law of thunder with the great lord." "It couldn't be better," a Deluo Jingxian smiled and took out an immortal talisman from his arms and said, "This is the certificate. When you go to the Chinese immortal emperor realm and enter the realm, this jade talisman will light up and guide you to the Lord's thunder courtyard." Liwen. Ye Yuan didn't know. Well, the great lord is proficient in the 4 laws. Naturally, those who follow him will also be divided into 4 academies. Naturally, they are the 4 academies of Fenjiun Leiden. "That's it, thank you." Ye Yuan cupped his hands and saw a fairyland not far away, so he said goodbye. "Is God helping me, or, is there any conspiracy in this?" Zuyun saved me face and reminded me, hoping that I would not become his enemy, but now the Lord of Wind, Cloud, Thunder, and I don't know our enemy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1774. But obviously, Ye Yuan has no choice now. He can only fool around for a while, and then go to the Chinese immortal emperor realm. If we are really in danger, I don't know whether to reveal my identity and find my mother, but from what Zhu Yun said, a tiger's poison cannot eat its seeds. My mother might have only considered me before, but she killed Yan'er. It's really a bit hateful. Ye Yuan sighed and flew out of this fairyland. After saying goodbye to those Deluo Jinxian, he took the immortal talisman and rushed directly towards the destination. Time flies. Zhu Yun and Bei Minjiun finally arrived at Purgatory Mountain. Looking from a distance, Purgatory Mountain seems to have not changed much. This made them unable to determine whether Lin Zhenghong had returned to Purgatory Mountain. And, is Lin Fei still here? Zhu Yun, what do you think? After hiding for several hours, let alone seeing anyone going out, they couldn't even see anyone on the surface of Purgatory Mountain, which was a bit strange. Although Purgatory Mountain has changed a lot over the years. But if there is news about the evil immortal, they will still send the warden to arrest him. Anyway, even if Lin Fei is here, he can't defeat us, so he might as well just go there. Zhu Yun didn't think too much, but saw that Bei Minjiun seemed a little entangled, so he waited here with her. Go ahead if you want, but unless it's absolutely necessary, I think you'd better not reveal your ability to understand the laws of time. Bei Minjiun thought for a moment and gave a reminder. Why? Zhu Yun was stunned, then asked, don't the laws of time say that everyone in the immortal world knows it? He knew that what Bei Minjiun was referring to was his long river of time, or his magic of stopping time. Ordinary immortals really can't do this. Think about it, even if you have a close relationship with Lin Zhenghong, how long have you known him? Can it compare to the time you have known Ye Yang? Qiu Linjian is Ye Yang's immortal companion, and what about you? Zhu Yun touched his nose and said with a wry smile, then we haven't known each other for a long time. Bei Minjiun glanced at him and said, I'm different. I can feel an aura in you and know that you are a good person. And you have just arrived in the immortal world, so you must not have been poisoned by the atmosphere of the immortal world. Zhu Yun was speechless. You said I'm a good person. He pointed at himself, wanting to laugh but not daring to laugh. Because Bei Minjiun said it extremely seriously. In the past, he was indeed a good person, and he could let go of Sun Qiniang, who almost killed his father. Zhu Feng, who had strayed into the devil's path and caused such a disaster, could also be released. In fact, it was not that he wanted to be a good person, but that under the circumstances, he felt that he could let them go. Of course, later on, he saw the cruelty of the world of immortality. Those who can be killed will never be released. Since then, he has felt that he is no longer among the good guys. Even when the yellow star collapsed, he took away all the yellow star creatures he could take away. But he also has selfish motives. Let them enter the world of colored glaze and provide him with his original power. Everything has a purpose. However, Zhu Yun also subconsciously regarded these things as a kind of transaction. But at this time, Bei Minjiun seemed to have guessed what Zhu Yun was thinking. He turned around and looked directly into his eyes and said, what, you think you are not a good person? Zhu Yun shook his head, I'm not a good person. Everything I do is actually to survive. Bei Minjiun smiled. Is this a joke, Your Majesty the Immortal Emperor? Zhu Yun felt that she was laughing at him, and was a little unhappy, and his tone became a little colder. Zhu Yun, what are good people and what are bad people? Why are you asking this question? Zhu Yun turned around. He was afraid to look directly into Bei Minjiun's clear eyes. If we don't talk about anything else, let's talk about the demons from outside the realm. Do you know why they invaded the fairy world? Zhu Yun remembered what Mengwei told them, and said, because survival in the demon world is difficult and resources are scarce. Yes, Bei Minjiun nodded and said, in our view, the extraterrestrial demons are foreign enemies. But for the extraterrestrial demons, they are expanding their territory and looking for pioneers for their fellow tribesmen who are more suitable for their survival and reproduction. Do you think they are good people to Zai Tianmo? Zuyun was silent. Zuyun, I think you should understand this. I say you are a good person because I think you are a good person. You don't need to prove it to others. That's enough. Because you can help me. Hearing this, Zuyun couldn't help but think of the thousands of creatures in the Liulai world. Why are they so religious? Not only does it provide yourself with the power of origin, but it also provides you with the power of faith. Is it because, in their eyes, I am their Xuxian? He couldn't help but recall all that Liulai world had gone through. Several times, in times of crisis. All creatures will kneel before his golden body without hesitation. They don't have the strength to deal with it, so they can only do this. Zuyun took a deep breath and vaguely understood. He also dared to look directly into Bei Minjiun's eyes. Xiao Bei, I understand. I don't need others to think that I am a good person. I only need those who think that I am a good person and think that I am a good person. Like a tongue twister. Bei Minjiun smiled sweetly. Yes, for me, everything you do, even if it is selfish, can benefit the entire fairy world. So you are a good person. Zuyun smiled slightly and said, you are also a good person. Of course, I have always felt that I am a good person. Otherwise, the normal fire at the bottom of Purgatory Mountain would have burned me long ago. Bei Minjiun's eyes were as curved as crescent moons when he smiled. Zuyun also understood why Bei Minjiun trusted him so much. Then it's time for us two good guys to get over. If that bad guy Linfei is still there, we'll just beat him up. Zuyun turned sideways and pointed to Purgatory Mountain in the distance. Of course, not only will I beat him, but if I can capture him alive, let's see if I don't freeze him into icicles. Zuyun felt cold all over for no reason. This immortal emperor, who is like the little girl next door, is actually very vindictive. The two of them flew together. I thought that I would be stopped by the warden of Purgatory Mountain. Unexpectedly, it landed at the foot of the mountain smoothly and no one showed up. It's so weird. Bei Minjiun frowned slightly, looked towards the top of the mountain and said. Could it be that Lin Zhenghong came back and called all the wardens up to lecture them? Zuyun couldn't help but guess. I'm not familiar with Lin Zhenghong. Bei Minjiun took a step forward and said, why don't we go up to the top of the mountain and have a look? If we can see the 5 elements loose immortal soaked in the sea of fire, it means he has returned. That's fine. Zuyun nodded and followed Bei Minjiun closely. But when they just reached the top of the mountain, in the sea of fire, strong evil energy soared into the sky, even bringing up the normal flames at the bottom. No, something happened. The two of them took a few steps back. Bei Minjiun, who was as strong as the immortal lord, also had a solemn look on his face. He suddenly flashed his hand and took out an immortal weapon that Zuyun had never seen before. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1775. What happened? Zuyun took his head back and looked closely at Bei Minjiun, who was facing a formidable enemy. Have no idea. Bei Minjiun also leaned down slightly and said, this righteous fire can endanger us. This means that the righteous fire is not righteous and has been infiltrated by evil spirits. You mean, those evil immortals influenced the sky fire? Zuyun was shocked. That's about it. Seeing that the fire was getting more and more fierce, Bei Minjiun seemed to feel that there was no solution for the moment, so he simply squatted next to Lu Chen and said, the evil immortals' abilities are weird and inexplicable, don't say it affects the normal fire, and may even change the properties of the normal fire. Can the attributes of sky fire also be changed? Zuyun felt it was extremely incredible, and he couldn't help but think of Fen Tianyan. Of course, Bei Minjiun glanced at him sideways and said, normal fire is also heavenly fire, and heavenly fire is a spiritual creature born and raised by the earth. It is under the laws of the immortal way. But whatever the evil immortal does, everything will avoid the immortal way. Walking on the edge of the law and testing wildly. Maybe, there is a powerful evil immortal sneaking into Purgatory Mountain this time, or Lin Fei is not the only one in Purgatory Mountain. Hearing this, Zuyun couldn't help but think of someone. There is no trace of the immortal. Now, they have no news about Lin Zhenghong, let alone whether the five elements loose immortal is trapped at the bottom of Purgatory Mountain. Seeing that the fire was not going away for a while, Zuyun moved in his heart and said, Xiao Bei, come with me. We are hiding here for the time being. Maybe we will find something. In that cave, Xian Wuxing was trapped in it and no one knew about it. Obviously no one would come here. For them at this time, it was an extremely safe place. Oh! Are you familiar with Purgatory Mountain? There are many restrictions here. If you run around and trigger some mechanism formation, it will be difficult to trap me, but you may be trapped here. Zuyun smiled slightly and said, just follow me, Purgatory Mountain can't trap me. Seeing that he was so confident, Bei Minjiun was also very smart. After a little thought, he understood some of the reasons. So he said, let's go. The two of them walked down the slope, Zuyun leading the way, and Bei Minjiun taking charge of the rear. From time to time, she would look back to watch the aftermath of the normal fire. Fortunately, this normalization does not seem to be directed at them. Although he could hurt them, he didn't pursue them. Otherwise, this person has existed at the bottom of Purgatory Mountain longer than Bei Minjiun. Who can guarantee that it will not hurt them? The two of them walked very fast and reached the halfway point of the mountain in a short time. Seeing the familiar cave, Zuyun muttered something. Not only did he use the Divine Eye technique, he also pinched the formation technique in his hands. Call out. The restriction was opened, and Zuyun quickly led Bei Minjiun into it. In an instant, the surroundings became completely quiet. Zuyun breathed a sigh of relief, sat on the floor, and said to Bei Minjiun, do you think those evil immortals had planned it a long time ago? I don't know, Bei Minjiun shook his head and said, I have very little dealings with evil immortals. Although there are evil immortals in the northern immortal realm, they are not as bold as the southern immortal realm. Zuyun thought of something and asked, what about the western immortal realm and the eastern immortal realm? Bei Minjiun frowned, what do you mean? Zuyun sighed, remembering the news he learned from the Mayan Bei Fairy Kingdom, and expressed his guess, perhaps, Ximen Yuanqing and Dongfang Bai are some evil immortals who have conspired. Everything has a motive. Why did you and the others associate with evil immortals and do such treacherous and unethical things? Zuyun leaned on the edge of the stone wall and said lazily, the longevity of an immortal is boundless. Is there anything else you want, Xiaobei? Tell them, why did you ask me about it? Bei Minjiun smiled and said, I just hope that humans will be humans, beasts will be beasts, demons will be demons, and demons will be demons. Then everyone can get along with each other in peace. Why do we have to fight to the death? Zuyun was stunned. Don't you want to pursue a broader avenue? For example, the path to immortality. Bei Minjiun smiled. Zuyun, you also ascended from the lower world, right? Then tell me, when you were immortal, did you want to cultivate as an immortal? After cultivating as an immortal, did you want to keep making breakthroughs, and then achieve enlightenment and ascend, thereby gaining endless longevity? Before Zuyun could speak, Bei Minjiun said again, you are so smart. You must have been extraordinary when you were immortal. But when you first became a monk, you stepped from the top of a mortal to the bottom of a monk. Chicken, you know the truth about head and tail better than me. That's right, Zuyun naturally agreed with Bei Minjiun's words. He nodded and said, so Xiaobei, you don't want to become Fengwei. Of course I don't want to, Bei Minjiun said easily, I have reached the end of my life, and I sit here as the immortal emperor. I don't want to pursue anything anymore. Do you know the source of pain? At this moment, Bei Minjiun didn't look like the girl next door at all, and her casual question made Zuyun think deeply. The root of pain comes from desire. I have no desires and no demands, so naturally I will not suffer. I used to be just an ordinary immortal. I couldn't see the immortals in the northern immortal realm suffering, so I swore to sit on the throne of the immortal emperor. Bit. And I did it. But I didn't expect that the immortal realm would be in chaos. Everything I did was for the northern immortal realm. To be honest, no matter how chaotic the eastern immortal realm and the western immortal realm are, it doesn't matter to me. Things. I just want to protect this 3-acre land. Having said this, Bei Minjiun let out a long sigh. You call this 1/3 of an acre of land? Zuyun couldn't help but sigh in his heart, but then again, if Bei Minjiun really thought so, it was reasonable. People have desires, and they will suffer when their desires cannot be fulfilled. Haven't I often experienced this? If I could stand proudly at the top of the fairy world, would I still explore the higher avenues above the fairy world? Seeing Zuyun fall into deep thought, Bei Minjiun secretly thought that it was not good, and her unintentional words might affect Zuyun. So she turned her hand, and the laws flowed on the fairy weapon, and a fairy power of ice crystal color instantly enveloped Zuyun. Zuyun only felt a cool breeze coming, and the next moment, he woke up. Xiaobei, what are you doing? Seeing that Bei Minjiun was still holding the fairy weapon in his hand and the fairy power had not yet dissipated, he was suddenly a little confused. I'm afraid you'll have a demon in your heart, Bei Minjiun breathed a sigh of relief and said, don't be affected by what others say, you have to be yourself. The tone was a little harsh, but it was a wake-up call to Zuyun. Thank you. The heartfelt thanks made Bei Minjiun smile. Some things require you to decide for yourself. Instead of listening to what others say. I want to be the immortal emperor to protect the immortal realm that gave birth to me and raised me. As for what you want, just think about it yourself. Zuyun smiled slightly and said, of course I know what I want.